Oh, hello, and welcome to day number 5 here on TryHackMe. Today we're going to talk about a vulnerability type called IDOR. IDOR is a vulnerability we see on web applications, short for Insecure Direct Object Reference, which is one of the more important vulnerabilities to understand when talking about vulnerabilities on web applications. Moreover, we have a URL here down below, zoom a bit so you can see better, talking about something called packageID 101 and what happens if we alter that ID in the URL and just press enter. Do we actually get package ID of 102 or 3? You can access that. Depending on how the application is programmed, the programmer is actually aware of this, which is kind of common that sometimes they're not. Well, then we have an IDOR vulnerability because we can access different things. Think about it differently. Think about this variable here called profile ID, and you are on the edit page of a profile. What happens if we then change the profile ID from 20, which is mine, for example, to 21? And that is another profile. Can I then edit that profile? That's an IDOR vulnerability. So what we are faced with here is an application that we need to access. After we start the server, I think we're giving a URL somewhere. There we have it right there. It's a particular website we have to go on to. So I'm going to do that. And I think we have to log in. I visited the page just before I started recording the video, but something went wrong. But we are actually given the credentials there and the password. We just logged into the application as Nils. And basically, we are asked to do different things and tasks inside of this. What I'm going to do right now is just to right-click and say inspect, because that is the developer tool that we are asked to go ahead and use. On the network tab, whenever I interact with the application, let's say Billboard here, for example, and I click the view details, you notice that something does pop up here. I know since I zoomed in, it's a little difficult for you to see. But what you will see here down below is actually something here called the file, and there is a URL we can go ahead and check out. And that URL is pointing towards something called user ID 10. Now, this particular here is something that we cannot directly alter this value right here, but we could, of course, try and copy the value, open a new URL and put it in, and you will see the not authenticated part right here. Something they did actually create. So it would be a little too easy to just go ahead and do that. We would need something else in order to do it. What exactly that would be, we don't know right now, but always try and access the URLs you're getting, because then we could alter this particular thing. Now, what you could do is, I'm just going to show you this. We are on this user here. We clicked on the view icon. What we could do is to verify if this particular HTML code right here, for example, when you press F12 one more time, let's pick the small arrow and click on the icon. That's a bit big, I know. I'm sorry for that. You can see it was marked as this. It's a small circle. And that small circle represents the icon we're clicking on. So what we could do, and what we could try and determine is there something we can alter here in the HTML to give us access to the functionality of this button. Now, we would need that to be the ID of 10 as the user ID. So we need to look for something that looks like a 10. Now, since I don't really see that number right now, we just briefly look at it. It doesn't present itself with any number anywhere 10, ID 10, or something like that we could alter directly. If that was the case, we could probably have done that. There's also the case that the ID is hidden somewhere else. We could, of course, look for that. There are different ways we can do it, of course, but we can just, of course, try and open things and click on it again, mark the whole field, for example, like that, and see this is the first div tag in the HTML. And then we could, of course, try and verify what's inside of all this HTML. We have something called born there. We can see like that's the text. We can further go down. So like, okay, so another button. Inside this button is another thing. So there's something going on, but we cannot directly see the numbers. At least I cannot. Maybe I'm blind, but I don't think my eyes do actually see the number 10 anywhere that we're looking for. So what we could do is to, one more time, press F12. That's the same one like the inspect we're entering. We can go ahead and check out different things here. Let's go to the storage button. And do we have any cookies, for example? Or local storage going on? We have something called local storage, and there's something called auth user 10. So that would be the user we are now. What if I verify we're nils up here, then I alter this here to 11, for example, and then I resend this by pressing F5 and updating? Does it actually work? Now it does say that the email is test. What if I go back to 10 again and refresh the page? Now it says nils as at web.tmh. So it definitely got something here going on. We can go ahead and alter some user ID. So we can go ahead and check out different user ID accounts, which is actually presenting itself as an actual IDOR vulnerability. So we did find different kind of things. And if you're looking through the guide right now on the left hand, you will notice that the same things that I'm talking about more or less is in the guide. I just picked a different approach to give you a different approach, of course, where you can read the things on the left-hand side of the screen on your own, of course. So no reason for me to do exactly the same thing one more time. At least I think I could do something different. What we will have to do now is to go down and see what the questions is actually all about. And we can go ahead and check out the questions here. What does IDOR stand for? Well, we actually did get that just before. So we can also write it out and we can go ahead and copy paste it, but I'm going to go ahead and copy paste it. So it's the short term up here. It's called insecure direct object reference. Let's go ahead and copy paste that. Go down and paste it in. Now, give me the sound, please. There you go. Now it talks about the type of privilege escalation we're talking about. Now, when we're talking about privilege escalation, we're talking about giving access to ourselves to another user. And since I can do that, just saying one, for example, and refresh the page, I can now say that I'm my children something. I don't know if there's a user called one. It would seem that there's not. If it's the same thing we're going for, let's try 2. Then I can change 2. Also didn't give me anything particular, but about 4, for example. Like this. We're gonna become Alice now. So now I'm Alice, and they can see Alice's children. Got 3 children we can add some vouchers and gift for. We also add a child, so it could essentially alter the account of Alice right now, which is actually giving me access to Alice's account, even though it does say nils up here still, but it does actually say Alice. So I'm just going to just close this in a certain way. There we go. So what we need to find out is this horizontal or vertical privilege escalation, and we actually have a text up here talking about these kind of 2 different types. It says vertical refers to PrivEsc, where you gain access to more features. Horizontal refers to PrivEsc, where you use a feature you are authorized to use but gain access to data you're not allowed to access. So what we're seeing here is we're changing the ID and we're not getting access to, well, it could be if the code was giving us access to more features, but in most occasions, and this is like kind of zone, because it's kind of both in a way, because and this is, I'm going to try and explain it in a way so you understand it. If you change the ID of something different in a local storage or session queue, you actually the ceiling, you can change it. Then basically, and essentially, if that ID was the administrator ID, and the backend verified that, it could give me access to more features. And then it would be vertical, but in most occasions, and in this application, we are only gaining access to data we are allowed to access. So the correct answer would be horizontal. I'm pretty firm from that. So let me just go ahead and pick that and put it in. And the last question would be, because we are trying to verify exploiting the viewer account parameter, what is the user ID of a parent that has 10 children? Now, we already looked at Alice as number 4. Let's go ahead and check out another user. Now, let's cheat a bit. I have 2. Let's try 12, 13 maybe, and we send this. No. Let's try 14. No. And of course, this would be automated in a way, because it's very boring to do this. Now, we have a lot of children here. It seems like we have 10, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Yes, so that would be number 15. And we would definitely need to have this automated in a way, and that would actually conclude this. So we can go ahead and say bonus task and so on. If you're going to go ahead and do these, you should definitely go ahead and do that. I firmly believe it's a good idea for you to go ahead and do that. I'm going to try and end this and top it off with, like, the IDOR vulnerabilities can be viewed in many different ways and doesn't necessarily always present itself as a URL variable, which is the most common one. For example, if it's set like user ID equal to 1, then we just sit and change these and press enter. But since it doesn't do that, it's kind of hidden some other place, but we can still find it and still execute and still alter it and gain access to more part of the application we were not able to get access to normally by just clicking the buttons. And this is why it is so important to understand what is going on, how to program, and the different things. I just want to say, really hope you learned something. If you want to help me out, please go ahead and like the video, comment, and subscribe to my channel. So we have one thing left to say, and that is ho, 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 ho.